Obviously, I'm a few days late and a couple dollars short on this trade. So if you got a problem with me talking about it days later, well, guess what? Argue with your ma. So let's talk about this trade for the LA Clippers that they've just made this week. They have sent Norman Powell to the Miami Heat. John Collins is going to the LA Clippers. And then Kevin Love, Kyle Anderson, and a 2027 Clippers second round pick will be going to the Utah Jazz. Obviously, this trade benefits the Clippers a lot because throughout their playoff run, and in truth, throughout the regular season, even when they were winning, they really didn't have a true four. You know what I'm saying? Like, all they really had at the four were guys like Nicholas Batum, Derrick Jones Jr., and then obviously Kawhi Leonard as well. And obviously, they started off last season with Terrence Mann, and they ended up flipping him to the Atlanta Hawks for Bogey Bogdanovich, and so on and so forth. Throughout that whole throughout the season, even when they went 50-32 and they forced a game 7 against Denver, again they didn't have a true four, and that was important throughout that 7 game stretch because Aaron Gordon was torching them on the offensive glass and the boards. You know what I'm saying? Remember, he hit that game winner, or he dunked that game winner in that crucial game 4, which if the Clippers held on and tied it, and I think they tied it, that would have been sent to overtime, and I think they would have won game 4, ultimately going up 3-1 against the Denver Nuggets. You know what I mean? But they needed someone to defend, let's say, guys like Aaron Gordon, guys like Pascal Siakam, guys like Giannis, even LeBron, even, you could argue LeBron and KD, even though they got Derrick Jones Jr. for that. Derrick Jones is a good defender, but the problem is you need him to defend the perimeter, the perimeter players. You know what I mean? Like, you need him to defend the Stephs. You need him to defend the Jaylen Browns. Even though you see on my screen right now, I'm playing 2K24. I'm having John Collins guard Jaylen Brown, but I kind of tinkered around with the Celtics lineup here. But you need someone to defend guys like that, guys like Jalen Brunson, Kyrie Irving. I know he's out for the year, but Tyrese Halliburton counts as well. So you need him on those guys. And Nick Batum, he's about to be 40 in a couple years. You can't have him stick these super athletic forwards or these super savvy, crafty forwards. And now the Clippers have that. They needed that guy badly. And I think John Collins is a good difference maker because remember, we saw him with the Atlanta Hawks in that playoff run. And I covered it a few years ago in that series recap, season 1 of that, where I talked about John Collins' impact on the series. He had a major impact winning that 5-game series against the Knicks. He shined on the brightest stages in that semifinals against Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris, and the Philadelphia 76ers, who were the number 1 seed at the East at the time. He had a lot of great memorable moments in that series, in that conference finals against the Milwaukee Bucks. Even though they lost, Collins played really well. And obviously, I think Atlanta gave him a max contract. I think they extended him and everyone was calling it an overpay. Let me go look at it really quick. Yeah, so in August of 2021, Collins signed a 5-year contract with the Atlanta Hawks, and obviously that didn't end well, you know what I mean? After being hopeful that he was the next complementary star piece next to Trae Young, obviously his last 2 years in Atlanta were less than stellar. In 2019-20, he averaged 21.6 career highs. John also got 10 rebounds a game. 2021, he averaged 17.6, 7.4 rebounds, and for some context, y'all, in the playoffs, he averaged 13, almost 14 a game with almost 9 rebounds. And in 2022, he averaged 16.2. And then 2023, his last season with Atlanta, he averaged 13.1. Obviously, he started 4 of the 5 games in 2022. He was really bad that series against Miami. And then against the Boston Celtics in 2023, he wasn't that great either. 11.3 a game, and then 4 rebounds a game. So obviously that contract looked pretty bad for Collins, but he got traded to Utah. He got traded to Utah as a result. First year was middle of the pack, but his last season with Utah, he was actually dinged for winning too many games with the Jazz. I'm just like, what the hell is that supposed to mean? Are they but they were obviously tanking. And I feel like Utah is going to continue to tank for a couple more years until they're serious about getting vets and trying to compete with guys like Ace Bailey and Walter Clayton Jr. and Walker Kessler as well. But outside of his points per game, which obviously is going to be up and down, And obviously, his tenure with the LA Clippers, he more than likely will be the third option unless they get Bradley Beal, or which to that case he'll be the fourth option. John Collins is a super athletic four. Obviously, we saw him posterize Joel Embiid in that semifinals that I just mentioned, but he can get himself some good blocks. He's a pretty good defender, and the thing about it too is that it gives the Clippers more size too. You know what I'm saying? Like now they got bodies coming off the bench, right? Because Ivica Zubac was freaking spent in that 7-game series trying to be an offensive minded big while trying to guard Jokic as well. Here, you sign Brook Lopez, which is a good move. Brook can come off the bench for 18 to 20 minutes. And if you want to, you can run a double big lineup between Brook and Zubats. He could give Zubats much needed rest time on the bench because the last 2-3 seasons, since they got rid of Serge Ibaka, they really never had a backup center. Okay, Mason Plumlee. Yeah, Plumlee was trash. And okay, he had his moments with the Clippers, but homie was a bozo half the time because the guy thinks he's Magic Johnson, but he's really the definition of Tragic Bronson. No insult to Mason though, but come on now, you could do better than that. Daniel Tice really, and then this past season, I don't think they really had that good of a backup center. If anything, I don't think they had a backup center at all. But Brook Lopez is a champion. He could get you blocks. He could also get again. He could spell Zubac some minutes. Collins is going to be starting next to Zubac, which I think is huge. It gives a chance for Kawhi Leonard to play his natural position at the 3, because more often than not, the last 5 seasons, even in the season where Kawhi Leonard was starting, there were times where he started his tenure with LA, I should say. Kawhi, there were times he had to play the 4, which obviously is not the greatest thing because you're going to put him against the Giannis's, the Gordons, the Siakams, and you also want him to be that guy offensively. It's just not sustainable. Again, getting Collins takes a lot of pressure off Kawhi, and I think another move the Clippers could make would be a signing for a guy like Bradley Beal or Chris Paul or Malcolm Brogdon. Chris, I would not want to bring back because Chris is too old. Malcolm is injury prone, but when healthy, he's pretty damn serviceable. But unfortunately, again, he's hurt a lot. Bradley Beal might be the best of the 3, but I would definitely want to see if they can make a trade for Drew Holiday, as y'all see on my screen right here. Obviously, Drew is an LA kid, but Drew is a 2-time champion. Drew can bring that championship experience he had with both the Milwaukee Bucks in 2021 and the Boston Celtics in 2024. But obviously, I don't think that'll happen because they're gonna the Portland Trailblazers want to use Drew Holiday as a mentor for Scoot Henderson, and obviously everybody's playing with the idea. And I may make a video talking about the Blazers about how good they could possibly be, but with guys like him, Matisse Thybulle, Denny Avdia, Donovan Clingan, and then Tumani Kamara, just all being defensive demons, you have to go up against those guys in a tight ball game defensively. Yeah, all bets are off, y'all. And I think the Portland Trailblazers want to shift their identity to a more defensive-minded team. And I think having Drew as the main vet could help out with that. So I don't see the Clippers trading for Drew unless if it's a mid-season trade. But I think they're trying to go all in right now so they won't have to worry about making big splashes at the trade deadline, which is why I think they're trying to go for Bradley. They're trying to go for Chris. They're trying to go for Brogdon. You know what I mean? I think Beal would be the best of the 3, but I think I would take Drew over all those other 3. That's just me. Y'all can disagree. That's absolutely fine. But I do like these moves for the Clippers, and it kind of pains to say as a Laker fan, but the Clippers did get better. But right now, are they a championship caliber team? No. Because I said in my playoff preview when I was covering the Clippers and Nuggets that this is their chance to really prove that they're a championship team, because everybody that watches basketball knows the Clippers are a good team. The problem is that's all they're going to be known for, because they've always been a good team. But the problem is the good teams don't win you championships. It's the teams that are all bought in. You look at Oklahoma City this year. You look at Boston last year. You look at the Warriors in all those years with Steph and Clay. You look at the Milwaukee Bucks and all these other teams. I can go on and on. LeBron and AD's first year as a duo together in LA. That what separates them from the good teams is their willingness to play committed and staying healthy and battling when times get tough. I've seen a lot of Clipper playoff games where it's just like when the going gets hard, the team flat out quits and players get injured and the players just are less motivated for some reason and they just fizzle out at the worst possible times. They fizzled out the last 3 years in the first round. Obviously, one due to injury, the other due to injury, and Paul George being soft. This year they just got outplayed by a younger, more hungrier team, and the 2-3 zone in that game 7 absolutely messed them up. But that's besides the point. My point is that the Clippers are always going to be known as a good team. But the last few seasons, ever since they made their run to the conference finals, and in the first year with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, that's all they're going to be known for. They're just a good team. But these last couple years, they've really failed to show that they could really be a championship team. And I think this is their last year to really prove that they can win a championship with this roster, considering the moves they're making to get John Collins, to get Brook Lopez, to potentially get Bradley Beal, who I think is the better fit between him, Chris Paul, and Malcolm Brogdon. Malcolm Brogdon's way too injury prone, even though I would say I would choose him, but that's his problem. That's why I'm not choosing him. And then Chris Paul's old as heck, man. But let's talk about the Norman Powell side of things. Obviously, Norman Powell had to go. As much as a lot of Clippers fans loved his scoring barrages and the fact that he could wreak havoc on a team's defense, Norm proved two things. A, he wasn't really that reliable in the playoffs, especially when they needed him most in that game 7. And on top of that, even in the seasons where he was the best scorer, Norman was very inconsistent shooting the ball. And also another thing too is that the Clippers were going to have to pay him money that they pretty much couldn't afford him, because Norman was going to have to demand a lot of money because he'd be a free agent after the 2025-26 season, and the Clippers would not have any cap space to pay Norman that amount of money. Obviously, he averaged 16 points throughout the playoffs, shooting 35% from 3, 47% from the field. That's pretty good, but the problem is it wasn't enough when it mattered most. Game 7, he was awful. 9 points, couldn't hit any of his threes when it counted. Obviously, it was a bust. And Norman is way too short of a defender, too. I think that was another disadvantage. Because Norm doesn't have the height to guard small forwards, even though he's labeled as a small forward and a shooting guard, they really didn't have much of an advantage, too, with him being the smallest player, the smallest defender out there, and you having him guard the KDs and LeBrons. That's a problem. That's why they got Collins. Because you needed someone that could defend those guys, and obviously the aforementioned Pascal Siakams and Aaron Gordons. And I think if they do get Bradley Beal, you're pretty much flipping Norman Powell for another Norman Powell. But Bradley has much more of a playmaking ability to him than Norman did. I think he could also take pressure off of James, bringing the ball up the floor and running the offense every single play. Beal's a decent passer. Norman really wasn't a playmaker, and there was really no backup point guard outside of Chris Dunn. So I think you put James on the bench, Bradley Beal can run the offense, and again, he has some playmaking ability to him. Whereas opposed to Norman is just thinking one thing: score the ball. Even when Russell Westbrook and Reggie Jackson were his teammates, he really couldn't take pressure off of them, and it kind of forced Ty Lue to have someone like a Terrence Mann run the point. And Terrence is not he's not Drew Holiday when it comes to playmaking either. You know what I mean? So I feel like this trade does wonders for the Clippers. I think, and I think with Norman Powell too, and it's not a knock on Norman Powell, the stuff I'm saying. I think he could use Miami as a way to rebuild his value after obviously faltering in that game 7. He could use his value to be another scoring option for, let's say, a team like the Golden State Warriors. He could be an expendable at the trade deadline because Miami's trying to go younger. Norman Powell can be that scorer off the bench when need be. You know what I mean? I don't know if he's going to be starting in Miami or not because, you know, they'll have Tyler Hero and you have Davion Mitchell and then all these other guys like Haywood Highsmith, Nikola Jovic, and then bam. I think Norman can be the savvy vet for a pretty young Miami team that is looking like they're going to rebuild. But, you know, knowing Pat Riley, he's probably not going to want to rebuild because it's the Heat culture and yada, 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 even though we all know Jimmy Butler is the epitome of Heat culture. But again, that's a whole nother topic. Oh, yeah, not Jimmy Butler. Dwayne Wade. Dwayne Wade is the epitome of Heat culture. I'm sorry, Heat fans. I did not mean to say Jimmy, but Jimmy was too. But mainly D Wade. But I think Norman can use his time with Miami to be a trading piece to show that I can still be a guy you want on a championship team. And you could see him on a team like Golden State. You could probably see him on a team like the Indiana Pacers, who are trying to retool with Tyrese Halliburton's injury and Miles Turner heading his way to the Milwaukee Bucks. But all in all, I like the trade for all parties involved. Utah gets some vets, or at least they get a vet because they might buy Kevin Love's contract. Kyle Anderson's a good vet that could teach the young guys the ways of the league. Norman Powell can use Miami as a way to get him back, to get himself back on a championship level team, because Miami's not competing for that. But I think Norman can rebuild his value from there and also mentor guys like Tyler Hero and Davion Mitchell. And then the Clippers get an athletic four that could defend guys like Pascal Siakam, Aaron Gordon, and even at times when you need him to, Kevin Durant and LeBron James, and even someone like Giannis too, which Collins has defended him when Collins was in Atlanta Hawk. You know what I mean? So I like this trade for all parties involved. But let me know what you guys think. Do you think there's a clear winner in this trade? Do you guys think the Clippers won this trade? Do you guys think the Utah Jazz won this trade, or do you think the Heat won this trade? And let me know if you're a Clipper fan. Answer me this in the comments. What do you guys think y'all need to do to be a serious contender in the Western Conference? Because SGA is not going anywhere. Ant's not going anywhere. The Lakers are trying to rebuild around Luka, and now they got pieces like DeAndre Ayton. And the Houston Rockets got Kevin Durant as well, and all these other teams. So let me know as a Clippers fan, do you like the move? Do you hate it? Do you wish you still had Norman Powell, and you signed someone in the off? You rather sign someone in the off season? But yeah, that's the end of this video. I'm X. Deuces.